evaluated our accident statistics in the city and see that the red light cameras are resulting in a very significant reduction in accidents and injuries. And we believe that the goals that council has met, the 3 goals, are clearly being met by the red light camera program, and that it's a good program, and we continue to support it. I think with that, I will be quiet and look for questions.
Thank you. What we're going to do is I'm going to let Matt speak now, and so if you want to hold your honest, I was going to wait until he was done. And
I guess I have a question. If you're going to let Matt speak, as he's speaking as basically an expert giving us opinion, I'd like to understand his educational background, his training experience, so that we can compare that opinion to the opinion of our staff and their educational background and training.
Right.
Sure. Yes. Also, have him disclose where he got his data, his information from. Ask him where he got this stuff from.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll move.
Hang tight, and Matt, if you want
I'll give this over to Matt.
Answer the first couple of questions for us.
Yes, sir.
Hello. My name is Matt Florell. I was just told 10 minutes ago I'd be speaking, so I'm typing notes, trying to...
Well, I actually told you the council meeting said you were going to have a chance to speak.
I thought that was at the workshop 30 days from now, so that's what you guys have been discussing. So I've been trying to take notes. First, I just wanted to say I thought this committee meeting, as public notice, was only going to be on Yellow Times. There were no attachments to the committee meeting online. There was nothing about a red light camera report. I know it was mentioned in the previous council meeting that one would be given, but those had previously been given to full council. So, I haven't had time to review anything that's been presented today.
Well,
but I do have a lot of things to say. So I'll start with, my name is Matt Florell. I'm a college graduate. I went to Carroll College in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I've got a BS degree in a mixed disciplinary combined computer science, communications degree. It's now called Carroll University. They changed their name when they've grown. I founded a company. I'm a software programmer, president of the company up on 4th Street. We do a lot of statistical analysis. That's pretty much our specialization as far as corporate phone systems goes. We have several Fortune 500 publicly traded companies that rely on our programming, our statistics. Companies like the Chicago Tribune, Orlando Sentinel, Pragmatic Beds, and bigger companies. Cash America, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. They all rely on the statistics that our system generates. Really, my strength and my focus for the last pretty much 15 years has been on statistical reports and programming related to those reports as it rotates around phone calls. A couple of years ago, I started St. Pete Polls, which is a polling organization again, based around statistics. And we've done a fairly good job at estimating election results based on that. But really, the data and the information I get that I present, a lot of it comes directly out of the statistics that I get from the city through ATS. I have a database that has all of the citations for the first 2 years of the program. And a lot of the numbers that I'm going to speak on and have spoken on are generated directly from that data. I just wanted to start out correcting a few things.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I guess my point, with all due respect, Matt, I understand statistically and all of that, but from the point of view of the science of traffic safety and traffic management, that's a special art. And I guess we could ask our staff, do you have any really specific educational background, study in traffic management and traffic safety? And so I appreciate that Matt has done a lot of statistical backdrop, but I question whether it's appropriate for us to be receiving kind of expert opinion from someone who doesn't really have any formal traffic management education, training, and things along those lines, because then I start saying, well, what other citizens should have the right to address us, and what's the priority and credentials and such? So just a concern, and I'd like to stay with our staff, expert opinions and such.
Mr. Chair, while I do appreciate Mr. Kennedy's opinion, I'm of the opinion that the only person that has brought faulty and inaccurate situations as it pertains to this stop on red light camera safety program to the attention of council has been Mr. Matt Florell, the only one. Every time we get a report from our staff, it's just like now, it's glowing, no problem. So I would submit that the information that Mr. Florell has analyzed came from the city of St. Pete, ATS, and their red light camera program. So all he's doing is talk about data that these gentlemen have. And you just heard of the information Mr. Florell presented to Joe Kadicki on January 7th as it pertains to the slope at First Avenue South and 34th Street, okay? And the timing that they had set at 0, that he has now changed that based on Mr. Florell's information that he provided to the city of St. Pete from their data. So that's enough for
All
me.
right, point well taken,
And the FDOT also approved that change, so that's enough for me.
Well, and additionally, it was Matt's observation that caught the error in the number that appeared on the screen of cameras, which was also brought to our attention. So, I mean, I think the city council members here who are voting on this have the ability to discern the information and testimony from people who are experts from citizen lay experts.
Steve.
I think after today's meeting, and I'll do a new business item for this, we should develop a process. Because one of the questions that should always be asked of anybody is, and this has no accusations or implications toward Matt, but one of the questions, if somebody's going to come and testify before us in this committee on a topic, we should know if they're receiving any type of financial incentives or compensation from anybody that has any relation to the topic that we're doing. And I think there may be other issues that we should put forward too before we allow somebody to come and present testimony. And that has nothing to do with Matt, nothing. I just think should be a standard procedure that council has for everybody. Because that would make a big difference. There's a group that's financially fighting red light cameras, and that is something that we should know as testimony is given. And again, no accusation about Matt. Just in general as a process, I think we should do
Well
that.
taken.
I would like to hear the other side as well. So.
Well, okay,
Mr. Chair, as a member of the committee, I will make a motion that we hear from Mr. Florell and as a voting member and see, because we're in the BSNI committee, and see what be the pledge of the body.
I would like to just interject something here. What Mr. Kennedy says is correct. However, there's always room for a concerned citizen to be able to come forth. And I think what Mr. Kennedy is saying is there's a certain level of expertise that our traffic department has that Matt does not possess. Matt is a computer guy. I didn't say geek, I just said computer guy. And he does take statistics, and but we all know about how statistics can be, not that you're doing it, but there's got to be, I'm going to allow you to speak, but I think we need to understand that the information that you have garnered is from information that's being provided to you, but in the case of a grade, there's an explanation for that, which when you're done, I'll have Mr. Kubicki explain it. But, so go ahead and finish. Please don't more interruptions, let him go, and try to...
Mr. Chair, I remove my motion if you're going to let him speak. 'Cause we have a motion
I
on
just
the-
said he's going to be allowed to speak.
Right, but I'm saying we have a motion on the floor. I'm removing my motion so she can let him speak.
Okay, got a motion on the floor.
Thank you. In response to what Mr. Kornell said.
No, I remove my motion because you're granting him the opportunity to speak.
I got you, Chair. Go.
I have received no compensation from any side on this. In fact, I've paid out quite a bit of money for public records requests, and the engineering firm that I had conduct that elevation and grade study of 1st and 34th, that was something I had to pay for. But I just, most of what I'm saying today is not opinion, it's just the numbers. It's looking at the numbers, looking at the data. For instance, just looking at, the first 2 years of the program, I have all the citations, and it's over 10% that reoffend. I can show you the license plates. It's not ambiguous. That's the fact. 20% of the citation, over 20% of the citations issued are issued to vehicles that have received more than one citation, and it's 10% of the total vehicles have received more than one. Another thing that I noticed when I got the addresses, which I'm guessing I got in error, is that the number of St. Petersburg residents is actually over 50%. Now, the interesting thing that you notice is that they only looked at ST period Petersburg, and they didn't include St. Petersburg, or ST without a period Petersburg when they used the information out of their database. So that's an interesting data management thing that you look at, and it is over 50% that are St. Petersburg residents. Those are just a couple of things. Another thing, Mr. Kubicki had mentioned, crashes went down in the first year. Some subcategories did. The overall crashes didn't. That's something he testified to last year. The contention that red light cameras do the job of 6 police officers. Red light cameras are more like parking tickets. They're a non-moving violation. They have no points. Police officers don't issue those. Those are issued by the parking people. You can get, there's a man on the south side that's gotten 11 red light camera citations. They're all for 1 second into the red or less. He's still driving. If a police officer stopped that guy 11 times, he wouldn't be driving anymore. So that's another just factual difference. You need to compare apples to apples, and the result of getting a red light camera ticket is not the same as getting a police ticket. And that's something Sheriff Bob Altieri has stated in his testimony in several different places. As for the reduction in crashes, I've reviewed all the crashes that have happened at the red light camera intersections. And in total, compared to last year, they have gone down. Now, the interesting thing that you notice when you go through all these crashes is that red light running crashes are actually pretty rare. Red light running angle crashes only account for 6.7% of the crashes in the city. And the interesting things when that happens, if that number goes down by 2, you're talking a 10% drop. These pretty small effects have very big percentage effects. So that's another thing to keep in mind. The vast majority of crashes, and Mr. Kubicki said this last year, were rear end crashes. They're all over the place. As you're going through every one of these crash reports, it's like, yeah, another rear end, another rear end. And as you read some of these police reports, you can see the police officers are like, yeah, another rear end, nothing happened. And that's what a lot of them are. Another thing that, let's see, just getting back to the yellow times. I know at the beginning of this program and throughout we've heard that the yellow times have been checked and rechecked, and not factoring the slope in. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I talked over the last week, I've talked to 12 traffic engineers spread across the state of Florida. And slope is always something. The grade is always something that should be factored in. In fact, our own District 7 said, not only do they not tell people to ignore it, they say, make sure you measure it and never assume 0. So saying that the slope changed when it's clearly evident that the slope has been there for years, it is, in my opinion, not a true statement. The slope didn't change, it's been there, it should have been factored in. It wasn't factored in years ago, even before red light cameras were there, and the light was set to the minimum amount. Did it result in any crashes? Probably not. Crashes don't happen. We have all red. That's one of the things. I heard from more than one engineer. The all red was the best thing to do for safety when they added it a while ago, because that helps to take over for some issues. If there are any possible issues or even not in the yellow time. If it's down by 0.2 of a second, well, you've got 2 seconds of all red. So that makes it safe. But in the words of, I think it was the District 2 head traffic engineer, if you have red light cameras at that same intersection, then it becomes problematic. Because it's no longer about safety, it's about the punishment. And the yellow time no longer becomes just a safety thing, it's also based on a punishment thing. So that's why having a minimum or a shortened yellow time has a pretty big effect on that punishment factor when you're fining people, for 0.1 of a second violations. Now, there's some communities like Palm Beach County. They don't issue any red light camera citations that are under 0.5 second into the red. There are other communities in Florida that do that too. That's their fudge factor. If there are any mistakes anywhere, that fudge factor is going to take that up. So that's something else that needs to be considered. Let's see. I also just wanted to touch on the municipal hearings. The only person I've ever seen up there, aside from city staff, was Mr. Newton, who showed up momentarily and then had to run off to a meeting. But there's going to be one tomorrow at 1:30, and I would encourage all of you, if you can, to go, because you'll see what kind of violations are being appealed, what kind of people show up, what the decisions are that are made. And I've found several inconsistencies in the rulings. Some cases that are very, very similar to cases that get thrown out are not thrown out. The woman from Ocala had never been to St. Petersburg. She gave her car to her brother 2 years before. Then she got a notification in the mail that she had a red light camera citation. She came down here for the first time. And because she left her plates on the car and didn't take them, she was guilty and she had to pay $258. That's, she didn't change her registration. And that's something even I learned. You're guilty even if you don't have the car for 2 years and you can prove that it hasn't registered, and they acknowledge that. So that's a little quirk, and there are some inconsistencies in spouses and not using a proper affidavit, and then in some cases an affidavit from a person is believed, and then in other cases an affidavit from the same person is not believed. And that's another inconsistency problem. And I would encourage you to go tomorrow and see the cases that happen at 1:30. There's a lot more, but I'm forgetting it, and I don't want to delay things at all.
We're going to have a workshop, and we'll...
Yes.
Okay, so we got a little bit off topic here, and we were supposed to do yellow lights, as you see, but, I would just say that, I feel bad for the lady from Ocala that she broke the law. The law says that you switch, and that's what you do, and the reason you do that is for a multitude of reasons. I'm sorry it happened, and she was trying to be nice to her brother and do something nice for him. And it backfired on her. And that's the way it goes. We are not, all our job is to put the laws out there and what's supposed to happen, and there's a penalty that goes with that, and if you've been wrongly accused, you have a magistrate you can go before. If you're not driving the car, you present proof that you weren't, and you get off the hook. And but anyway, we have about 15 minutes, and I want to open this up. Thanks. When we do the workshop, we'll lose a little bit more. So we have, so far I just did, I have Steve,